happening, everyone? Welcome to the Systems Lab Live. This is exciting. I just like having a guest. I whenever you can just meet somebody and just good energy and really positive things that are happening. This is gonna be fun. I'm just gonna get straight into it, and I am joined by the one and the only Walter Gaynor II of Boss Locks Media. And this is exciting. Walter, are you glad to be in the building? Are you
I am
glad
glad
to
to
be?
be. Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Oftentimes, I've done a lot of podcasts, guest podcasting, and my own stuff, and I used to get nervous right before. But I was feeling good. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, I'm about to kick with Ash for a little bit. We're about to hop on a live, talk about a few things. So yeah, I'm
I
excited to be
love
here.
it. I love it. I love it. So, usually on the show, and those that have watched on the show, that we have a few segments that we go through. And we go through a few different ones. We go through what's happening in the world, sort of in productivity and trends and things and news. So we do all sorts of stuff. Then we sort of go through like a process and flow, and we explain a process, and then we just kind of close it out with a call to action. But what I love about what this our particular setup here is that we are going to talk about story, and we're going to talk about
Mm.
inside the workflow. So we're going to get a little bit more inside of the workflows tonight, because that is what tonight's session is all about: how to get stuff done. We're in this series called Everyday Work. Walter, we are in it because, as we've talked about, when we're on the trajectory of doing all the things, building the things, celebrating all the things, I think that we got to give an equal share to how we're doing stuff every day. Like, what
Mm.
does that look like? Or managing our time, managing our projects, our tasks, how we're creating. And we're going to get inside of content creation workflows today. But first and foremost, we're going to ask just a few questions about your origin story. I just started
Mm.
watching the Avengers. Okay. Many
All
people are
right.
very surprised. Many people, so please no spoilers, because now I'm just catching up to some of these things that are going on. I need to watch Thor next. So I'm in the very like
Or wait,
early.
first Thor or like which Thor?
Yes. Yeah, the first
Okay,
one.
you at the
Yeah.
beginning. All
Yeah,
right.
so I'm in the cinematic, what is it?
The
Cinematic
cinematic
chronological,
universe.
yeah, chronological release. So I'm going,
Okay.
yeah. I'm
Okay.
skipping the series because I feel like it's gonna take me till 2025 if I do that.
Oh, you know what though? Keep me up to date because some of the series you do have to watch before some of the. I'm a chill because we could talk
Okay,
about the Marvel
we can
Adventure
go
stuff this
in.
whole
We
show.
can
So
go.
yeah.
We can go in. But what I found so interesting about the origin stories is of some of these characters is that there's always a why to how they got to who they are. Like, when we're looking at Tony Stark, for instance, right? We look at him, and there's a why behind the Iron Man suit, and like what he was and what he built. So for you, Walter, it's not necessarily about your title, and what you do per se, right? That's a part of the identity. But talk to me about what it is in terms of you, like what makes you you, and then how do you express that through Boss Locks Media and the things that you
Mm.
do. Yes, yes.
Um, Good question. That just reminded me of this line from Drake. He was like, "I made a career out of reminiscing." For me, it's not quite that. It's
Okay.
me kind of leaning into
Mm-hmm.
insecurities and leading with curiosity. So literally everything I do is based around kind of those two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's like kind of this umbrella of so many things, like being insecure about like this all started, Boss Locks all started from me being insecure about actually being able to get a job, feeling discouraged that like, yeah, I don't think it's like I don't really know how to do it. Cause around the time I graduated, 2016, graduated from college, I was feeling good. I knew that once I would get a job, I would do fine. I would excel. I'm a good worker. People would be lucky to hire me. But
Yes.
getting past the interview stage is like I'm not good with job interviews. It's a weakness of mine. There's a lot of just unknown there, and I just overthink a lot of things. And then
Mhm.
also on top of that, it's news as a black man with locks entering into this world that was basically allowing companies to discriminate, choose not to hire someone just because they
Wow.
didn't like their hairstyle. So coming in there, having my own experiences with seeing how companies kind of treat people with natural hair, just seeing how the world treats black people, I'm like, okay, I don't really know how this is going to work. So I was feeling insecure, but I was also curious. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to cut my locks. I know there's a way to figure it out. So I'm going to start to see if I can learn. So I started talking to the people in my circle, the three people I knew with locks, to hear their journeys, and each one told a different story and how they navigated. And that set me on this whole journey to discover black CEOs with locks and create a podcast out of it, create resources for black professionals who are feeling discouraged about their career. And just that's kind of snowballed into several other things, being in LinkedIn's creator accelerator program, getting to speak, getting to moderate, interview some really amazing people from all over the world. Content is powerful. Content is powerful, but it all started with feeling insecure and being really curious.
Oh, I like that a lot because what you did right there is being able to use a vulnerability or what people might think is like something to be ashamed of and say,
Mhm.
let me create and find my own journey. And what does it mean to have locks? And what does it mean to use that as an expression of self and other people who probably have gone through the same thing? So I was looking at your site and I was looking at all the different, you know, owners and CEOs and all these really cool people. What were some things that you learned in those early days of those interviews? Like what were you learning?
That's a really good question. Learned one, that I'm not alone, and I think that's probably the biggest lesson, because a lot of things like the black community, I mean, really, to be honest, everybody, we all have things that we feel like it's just happening to us, and we feel alone in that journey, that like, oh, no one else really understands this. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe it's not as real. What's going on? But yeah, just being able to speak with people and knowing that I'm not the only person experiencing this, because I wasn't just insecure about my journey. I was even insecure about starting the show. I was like, no one else cares about this. Who
Wow.
wants to hear a show
Yeah.
about hair? What? Nah. So knowing that I wasn't the only person, and then also just seeing that people do navigate their career, their entrepreneurial pursuits with locks, and they're doing fine. And yeah, they've experienced some microaggressions, but they're good. They're thriving. That was powerful as well. I think one of the earliest interviews with Dr. Abasi Bomani, and that one was really impactful because he basically taught me that a lot of this boils down to insecurities, right? But it's not just ours, it's other people's as well. And everything that they're throwing onto us isn't really our problem at all. It's their insecurities that they got to deal with it, but they're out here making it our problem.
That's
So
right.
that that's I think one that stuck with me. And I remember actually hearing that real time, and that was just like light bulb. I was like, oh, okay, that I see it. It makes sense now.
Oh, that's cool. I really like that. Now, when it came to, you're building the podcast, you're creating the content. Now, as you started to evolve in that, did you have a particular idea of what you wanted Boss Locks Media to be?
Mhm.
Yeah. So what was that part like?
Yes. So before I started Boss Locks, I was planning on being the Black Gary V. I was like, yeah, I see what
Oh,
Gary V
come
is
on.
doing. Let me do that.
I
Let me
lo-
do that real
I-
quick.
yes.
I had this whole plan on, and this is also like I was getting ready to graduate. Um, People didn't really take social media seriously, at least people who Actually, even people who were my age, they were just like, "Oh no, it's just for fun. That's all." But I was like, "No,
Right.
you can really do this thing." So I was like, I would plan to create a whole YouTube show teaching people about social media. I was going to be on the street, like talking to people, and then like getting people's perspectives and bringing it back to the show, like boom. And so I actually did start trying to do that, but it was kind of terrible. It was bad. I didn't finish it. I probably should have, but it just didn't feel connected to it. So this kind of happened at the same time, and I was dealing with this feeling of like no hope as far as career growth and everything or getting a job. So it was just kind of this, I kind of was just called to start focusing on that as well. So um I so with that being said, I went into this with like clear intentions, and I was thinking like Breakfast Club status. I was thinking me and Oprah, we go on brunches every other
That's right.
weekend.
Why not?
Yeah, I was thinking actually like the initial goal was to the whole focus was redefining professionalism, proving that natural hair professionalism do coexist, and literally like eradicating hair discrimination. So that was the goal. That was the main focus. I was going, going, going. And then the Crown Act happened, and I was like, yo, cool. And I
Yes.
was also like, oh, wait, and what am I doing? Because they're doing what they're doing really well. Um,
That's
what I
right.
was trying to do, they had all the resources and like they knew exactly what they were doing and how to get it done. So I was like, okay, I had to like really lean back in and think it back to like what I really wanted once again. And I realized that truly at the core of everything, my vision isn't even necessarily like status, but more so impact and truly
Mhm.
creating resources so that like that people weren't alone and they knew they could go to people like Ashley for learning how to manage their business or grow as a project manager. They knew who to go to if they wanted to learn how to navigate the medical field. They knew what to do if they're feeling any type of microaggressions. They just had a resource they could look back on. And someone came up to them and be like, yeah, you can't do this if you had locks, or no, you can't do this because you're black. Or they could just easily be like, well, they're doing it over there. So I don't know. I'm gonna go check with them real quick. So
That's right.
that was the
Oh
goal.
no, that's great. No, that's real. I like that a lot. Just being able to, you're thinking big, right? I'm going to
Hmm.
go out, but then finding your footing. But I think that's like all of us in this space of we're building something and we're taking two or three steps forward, but I love how you saw like what the Crown Act was doing, and you're like, all right, I'm inspired by that. So what in terms in your field, like, or not even just even your field, how do you get your inspiration? In terms of, do you have like, or are you always on? Do you always have this mind of like you got ideas out the wazoo?
Yeah, I got ideas at the wazoo, and I don't even
Come
say that to
on,
like I
yeah,
don't
come
even like say
on.
that to brag, but you know what? But on top of that, because it's one thing to have ideas, it's another thing to know if the ideas have any value. I'm inspired by a lot of what I see around me as well, just like seeing how people move. Shout out to Steve actually in the comments, just watching the way Steve's growing his show, Podcasters Live, Worthy Leadership, Retail You, all those things, seeing how even yourself, the way you're moving through things. I really get inspiration from all around me. Because I guess really it's like the curiosity within that's what's kind of continues to drive me in different ways. Like anytime I'm experimenting with content, it's like, okay, I wonder how this works or how that works. So have a lot of ideas. I think seeing other people helps me to make my vision even stronger. So that's actually a realistic thing. But yeah.
No, I like that because I feel like you can draw inspiration by just seeing even just the way someone is, whether it's a caption, whether it is, a series or just something that they're doing. But I
Hmm.
loved what you said about, having the ideas out the wazoo, because I feel like the same way. I felt like for the last year and a half, and this has probably been all my life, just having maybe too much in your head. And then what do you do with all that information? So I've been heavy on how do you take all the things and place them someplace so that they're safe and that you can actually refer back to them. So I started this about a month ago, but maybe even a little bit before that. So I will say this for those of you that you guys know, if you know my content, it's always heavy on the ClickUp, but also one of the apps that I have no problem naming apps that I feel are really useful. Notion. So that's something both Walter and I use. We both use Notion.
Don't gotta assume. That's the answer to everything. Notion.
We do, but I have probably had a very messy note-taking type of thing up until last month until I got super organized with getting my brain together. Do you have a library of thoughts that you document, or what is your process of taking the ideas,
Mm.
filtering them? Yeah, what do
I
you do with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I literally do everything and kind of depends on like how where I am, how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Notion is the actual answer as far as the efficient way to do it. But
Come on.
sometimes something I realized recently is sometimes I actually have to get off technology altogether to
Mhm.
really like you're asking about inspiration earlier. Sometimes like we've been inspired forever ago. It's just life kind of like squashed that, and sometimes we don't even have to look outwards, we have to look within. And so for those purposes, like I got this like big notebook,
Well, come on, pen and paper
sit down,
squad.
stream of consciousness. Yeah, because like that stream of consciousness there, because like
Yes.
oftentimes we already have everything that we need within, so we just have to work on how to bring it out of us, like without anybody else. Because you could go in like work with somebody and they could pull things out of you, but if you're not careful, you'll become dependent on that person. And which is fine because it's good to work with other people, but that's expensive. And sometimes you won't pull exactly what you need. So learning how to do it for yourself is really important. But yeah, anything from as far as capturing the ideas from a
Mhm,
notebook to the notes app in my iPhone to Google Docs, everything. But then it's like even I have a whiteboard as well.
mhm.
So it's however I'm feeling, whatever I'm like creative inspired by, and then I have to make sure I do the work to take that and put it into Notion. So I like to start off in Notion if I can, but if that's just not how I'm feeling, then that comes second.
Oh no, I think that's really good, and I would encourage those that have the creative. Well, we all are creative, but those that just have the ideas that pop out of your head to grab something, but make it consistent. Make it consistent. So if it's
Mhm.
going to be the iPhone Notes app, get that little folder, get a little something, and then just fill out, whatever it is, those ideas. Keep that running list and running tab. But I will say this, that the next level in terms of, listen, I was talking to somebody the other day that I'm always like 2023 is almost here. But I always I always say this because we're in an age, and I've been studying this often, about knowledge management and like what are we doing with what it is that we're consuming, and making a
Mhm.
conscious choice that we don't need to consume all things, but the things that the areas in our life that matter, how do we capture it? Like shout out to Build a Second Brain, right? And how do we begin to document thoughts and those types of things, and then be able to take action? You just said it right there. Transferring it over to the system really helps to make it like it's real. Like now you're going to take that next step. So, as we talk a bit about and transition into like your early days of like content creation, like what were you using? Like what is that like? Because I know, we see a lot of fancy things these days, but I'm also team use what you have. So what did you
Mhm.
have? What did you have?
I'm team use what you have too. In fact, I think sometimes just using what you have makes you better than
That's right.
well, I don't like the word better.
Mhm.
It'll kind of help you develop your skills even more.
That's right.
Like one thing I mentioned to people looking into podcasting and wanted to take it like really far, it's like it's always a really good idea to edit your own podcast at the very
Mhm.
beginning because then you understand what it is that's happening. You understand the things you do, the random words, filler words you use, and all these other things. So no, it's very important to use what you have, even if it's like dusty, kind of duct tape-ish. Just do it, and then you'll continue to evolve, and you'll also know exactly what you need. Because you're right, there are literally so many systems. Like you mentioned, ClickUp. I think ClickUp's actually really strong, but there's like 20 different versions of ClickUp. ClickUp stands out for sure, but there's 20 different versions. So if you don't know exactly what you need, you'll end up hopping to all of them and
Hmm.
dropping all of them too. So yeah, at the very beginning, Google Docs and my notebook. That was the two things, you know.
Oh.
Google Docs, I use that a lot in college, so it's just a natural progression to continue using it. Heavy in Google Sheets. Had editorial contents built out. Use Google Forms for onboarding with guests. I
Mhm.
took a very like customer service slash project management approach to content creation and still do so.
So, or even early on, just putting on that organizational cap. I be appreciating that. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know, I definitely have that creative mind that likes
Mhm,
to wander and explore, but because of that, I know that I need a strong like discipline there too
mhm.
to kind of like it's like I feel free when I have structure because I could always leave the confines of that structure, but I have like a home base to come back to.
Yeah, I like that a lot because I think there's often this narrative, whether it's whether you're a visionary or a whole thing about creatives and like I don't write anything down or like I'm disorganized, but I do think there's this aspect of at least there's some form of an organized chaos, right? There's some form of something. It just may not be as tight as maybe they want it to be. But I
Hmm.
think the important point to highlight is you made it simple. You didn't even like get into over complicating like even that client gets onboarding. So you had the form. So walk us through like those this was the early days of the podcast, right? Was that
Hmm.
what you okay.
Yeah,
So
2017 at this point.
2017. So walk us through what you were, how that kind of workflow was.
Um, yeah, so using Google Sheets, so just from like a podcasting perspective, I
Mhm.
knew
Yeah.
I had a whole list of people I wanted to interview, and I needed to know uh, how close I was to be able to contact them, what I needed to do to get there, and then also after contacting them, tracking the workflow as well. So I did all this
Right.
manually in Google Sheets with kind of these like check boxes and
Mhm.
having separate sheets for each stage that they were in. So there was like the default list that was like hundreds of people because I do my research. I still have hundreds of people I'm trying to interview. I'll be podcasting for life just to
Yeah.
meet everybody. Um, so yeah, Google Sheets tracking it. Anytime I sent a initial email, they kind of moved to this next stage. Once they confirmed interest, they were in another stage. Once I sent the invite, that's when they were in the next stage. And that's when the form comes out to collect their information. I even set it up to collect the headshot. Realized later that that was causing some friction, so I've updated the Google form and also combining email into it. Something that a lot of people well, say didn't know because I think Google has just or Gmail specifically has evolved a lot, but they used to have these like save templates in Gmail that you could click when composing an
Yes.
email.
Oh,
Yeah,
come
see, not everyone
on.
knows about that. So yeah, I was
No.
setting that up and that had everything saved, so I didn't have to do anything. It was like it was almost automated.
No, I like that a lot. I think that once you have the process, and again, this goes back down to writing it down, pen and paper
Mhm.
squad, stand up. So it goes back down to just writing down simply at the end of it, what do I want to happen? Like it's
Mhm.
just a very like, a process oriented type of thing. So you go from like, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and you could just be very easy. You know, I want to, reach outreach. What are the steps for that? You know, stage 2, collect the information, stage 3, and then you kind of go from there. So you're using the Google Sheets, using the Google Forms, and shout out to the evolution of Google. And that's another type of thing because they got smart chips and they're doing all the things. So they're doing some
All
cool
the
things,
things.
all the things. So you're using the Google form. So then what was sort of that next stage in terms of like the level up? Because there is an aspect where it's been working, but then you're
Hmm.
like, I could be doing something better.
Next
So
stage.
how did you get that process improvement piece? When did that come about?
I know. I want to say around 2018.
Mhm.
2018 was a big year because I had recorded a few podcasts, hadn't put them out yet, but I was also starting to jump into Instagram and starting
Yeah,
that up. So started the
that's cool.
Instagram to I knew I basically had no one following, and I didn't want to tell people I knew about it yet because I was one insecure, but then also still testing it out. And I knew I wanted to have an audience that wanted this, not just friends who wanted to support, which kind of hurt in the long run because I didn't really plan for how friends were going to get involved. So, but at that time, I started using Trello. Um,
Yeah.
started I want to say I started using Later around that time as well. Later's a social media scheduling app. It was built for Instagram. They're really great at I'm not sponsored by the way by these apps I'm
Right.
mentioning, but sometimes when you talk about them they reach out. So um yeah, Later was really really strong too. I still use them, but they were like they knew Instagram had a lot of resources around Instagram, so I just jumped into that, started using for
Mhm.
scheduling, that
That's
type of
right.
automation. So yeah, Trello and Later, I think were the next steps, and yeah, Google Docs a bit more as well. There's
Yeah.
probably like five others, but those are the main ones. There
Those
was
were the
like
main ones.
yeah,
Was
mhm.
it was it hard to make that transition over to a tool, because like a PM tool, because even when I was pen and paper squatting, you start thinking about, okay, if I'm going to use this technology app, it's just supposed to make my life all better. And then sometimes we get like lost in the nuances of how it's supposed to work. And then we're like, I don't like this anymore. Let me return back to what I was doing. Was that transition, was that easy? Or was it like
um,
you just like jumped in?
I love testing out different software
Yeah, me
tools.
too.
So I
It's
just
great.
like there's things like right now I have two different video editing tools and two different live streaming tools just to
Okay.
test them because I'm always like, okay, this is here, this is there. I need to understand how to use it, the use cases, and then I got to know where each of them are to see which one is going to take the lead. Um, so I always love testing things out. I think the actual challenge though was finding tools that I can use for podcasting that didn't cost me $5,000.
Come on. Come on.
And yeah, podcasting, it's like it's growing. It's
It
growing so
is.
fast now. And now there are so many tools to make it super easy. You don't have to know a single thing about podcasting outside
Mhm.
of just how to speak some type of language. But back then there were not that many tools. And I was trying to interview people who live nowhere close to me. And it's like, oh, I can't afford to go out to California real quick to meet with someone and they might need to reschedule it for another weekend or something. Like, no, I can't do that. So I needed some type of virtual tool. Skype was
Yeah.
the obvious choice, but I didn't want Skype because of recording and I didn't understand how to connect all this stuff and then the other
Mhm.
tools. It was just a lot to do. So that was overwhelming. But always ready to jump in a new tool. I jumped in a new tool today actually. And I think sometimes the challenge for me is just picking one, but
Yes.
not jumping into it because I'm ready to just burn it all down and build something stronger. So
I love that because I feel the exact same way about, well, just content creation process for me anyway. I'm always one step away of just like lighting the whole thing up. Just like, and I identify. So when I was making the decision to podcast, which, how like, and you references vulnerabilities and security, like nobody's going to listen to this, right?
mhm.
I went straight into like, who's going to help me with getting some of the beginner growing pains out the way, so I don't have to wonder about what folks did. So I like interviewed 3 people. I was like, what was the free tool you use? What was the paid? Like I was trying
Mm,
to really, kind of decipher. And so I used whatever the Mac, oh gosh, is it GarageBand? So I did
yeah,
GarageBand first, and then I was hearing about Squadcast in Riverside, and just like you said about the using the tools and the comparison, trying to see what was working in terms of the audio piece, like that was huge, right? Like
yeah,
it's just huge because that's all you hear about. Make sure your audio's not trash, like that.
right,
And so there was
right.
like a whole fear of like, ooh, like it's
For real, for real.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been jumping in. Yeah, that's hilarious. That was another challenge too. Everything I found as far as resources and tools was like, yeah, Apple this, Apple that. To this day, everything's Apple or exclusive to Apple. But
Mhm.
well, not everything. But at that time, I think Audacity was
Yes,
a
hers, yeah, so
yeah,
much heard
that
about that.
was. But
Yes.
I just couldn't figure that tool out. So I wasn't trying to use it. Ended up using DaVinci Resolve. They have a
Uh-huh.
free version. A lot
Yes.
of video editors still use it. It was like a free version of Premiere. So
Yes.
started jumping in that. But yeah, I really if I had iMovie when I first started out, I think I would have been a bit more further ahead.
Mhm. No, that's
Yeah.
that's really good. So did you jump straight into video podcasting, or were you audio then video? What did you how did that come about?
Yeah, I wasn't trying to start a podcast actually when I first started. It was all gonna be YouTube. Yeah, I used
Okay.
I had an iPad that I had won in college. It was an
Okay.
iPad Mini second
Yeah.
generation, which basically meant that it went out of service really quickly because they
Okay.
stopped
There you
supporting it.
Oh, there you
But
go. There you have it.
yeah, from that to using my I had a Motorola
Mhm.
phone for video. So yeah, I've tested a lot of different things out, used a lot of different tools, a lot of systems, but yeah.
You said you used like a phone? What you said what was you
Yeah, I had like a TJ Maxx phone stand. I had a
No.
and I was like set up, propped. I had a mic I got from Amazon. I learned how to connect it all together. I
Come
was good, ready
on.
to go. Some
Come
good quality too. Some
on.
good
Okay.
quality. Shout out to Android.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm iPhone now. I'm iPhone now, but
That exactly. Wow. So you were just like, I don't know what you call it. You were just, putting it all together and you're like, bam.
putting it
Yeah.
all together on a non-existent budget. So yeah.
That's it. And but I think that just what you're saying, I think is crucial for when we talk about and I heard this I think it was Joe Budden a clip when he was talking about in the name of content, right? There's something he was
Mm,
talking about. So when we think about content in the creators economy and sort of like, and this is just me thinking because I just have the brain that's always thinking about what's happening when you're not creating. So
yeah.
what's the process? What's the infrastructure like? So I think about what you just said. Use what's in your hand and create. And the young lady that is in is it what was her name? You said it was she had an Instagram, she had an iPhone 6 and she had the chips and she was like from Africa. And
Mm,
she would have some sort of little quips that she would say and they were literally like 30 seconds and she rose. I mean, it was during the pandemic. She just rose. But she was like, yeah, I just have my iPhone 6. I was like, stop the madness. Like, and just had the camera and just had the little sunglasses or whatever. And it was just like, no, 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 no. And then people just loved it and just was resharing content. So I want to ask you this question in the content creation journey, right? Shareable content, you
mhm.
know, what eh, when you're what so when we're talking about the goal of creating content, do you start off with mapping out what you want to do for the week or do you do it piece by piece? Like
When
what,
you start
how,
off,
yeah, like like
mm,
when for your journey, when just walk us through that. Like because I know you probably got, you're educating yourself on sort of like your journey and kind of learning things along the way. Were you like, this is my goal, and you were like, you started like writing it down, and you like your strategy, or how was that process?
Hmm. Um, I started with the vision actually. I started
Mm,
with kind of like you were talking about before with project management, the tools. You got to know what you
mhm.
want out of it.
Yes.
So for me, that was important. I think that's part of why the social media content I tried right after college, right after, didn't work because I didn't know exactly what I wanted.
Mhm.
Like saying I'm about to be the Black Gary V, that's not a real goal. That's like I mean it can be, but that's not it
Then,
doesn't it's not very like like full, rich, dense. It's very like
yes.
loose, shallow.
Mhm.
That's weird. And it's not true to my core and who I am either. So it was important for me to know exactly what the vision was. At that time, the vision was to prove that natural hair and professionalism does coexist. Prove it to hiring managers. Prove it to anyone in authoritative position. Also prove it to black people as well, because it's like there's so many different directions that could go, and because there's so many different directions, like okay, I could create content about this, create content about that, just continue to create. So it's really like you got to set the vision, know
Yeah.
where the goal is, know exactly where it is, and you're basically just following the path to that vision and inviting everybody
Mm,
on that journey. So um as far as like just getting started, what do you do? How do you create content? It's like you don't even start with what content should I create. It's like start with what exactly do I want? Why do I want it? Where am I
yeah,
going? It's like that journalism thing. Who, what, where, when, why, how. The
exactly.
how is oftentimes the content. So
Mm,
once you know where you're going, then you know what it takes to get there, and then you know what you need to do today to help yourself get there.
I like that a lot. Just aspect of knowing the journey and really just taking people on a trip. Like, like taking them on, the destination. Okay, now, if you were like riding a train, like you would be like, all right, now we're gonna get off here, like,
Mhm.
and then no, jump back on, and I'm gonna take you here. I like that a lot because I think that for myself, there was definitely a lot of scoreboard watching in terms of just understanding the playing field. And I think
Mm,
you can get lost if you don't know thyself and really spend time with understanding what it is that you're creating. So I think that, what you're saying is so key, which is you were very clear, of what you were looking to do. So therefore, you're able to just get right into it in terms of the types of content that you wanted to create. Did you always
mhm,
know how did you choose your platform? What was like, were you always on LinkedIn? Or were you,
mhm.
like, where did you start off at?
That's a good question as well. It's actually funny because like people say, well, okay, so I studied marketing in college,
Okay.
business and marketing, and that's important because I had a different level of understanding of marketing and how it all works, and it's important to be where your audience is, where your customers are.
Mhm.
Um, So for me, I was everywhere. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have a presence here, gonna have a presence there, gonna have a presence here. Um, but just focusing on a presence and really just the main place I wanted to be was Instagram, because that's the main place I already was. It's the main
Mhm.
place I see everybody from people who are natural hair advocates, enthusiasts, interested in it. Everyone's following different hashtags on Instagram about natural hair. That was a place I wanted to be. When it comes
Cool.
to other aspects of just Black life, everyone's on
Yeah.
Instagram at all times. People are still on Instagram, even though that's not my main thing right now. It's
Yeah.
like everyone's still there. One thing I like when I'm working with clients, I like to talk. I always like to ask them what platforms they use, like
Mhm.
personally. And I say, okay, cool. Well, that's got to be your main platform. That's one you enjoy the most. Of course, you got to think about where your audience is as well. If it doesn't match up, like then it doesn't match up. But it's likely that your audience is on that platform as well. You just have to find them. That's sometimes a tricky part as well. So, as far as what platform to get on, it's always important to do the ones you feel most comfortable with and the ones where your audience is. For me, that was Instagram. LinkedIn, I was kind of on there, but didn't really feel comfortable there. So the LinkedIn Creator Program that I was on earlier this year,
Oh, yes.
that definitely, I switched up. I told people, yeah, I'm packing my bags. I'm moving to LinkedIn. That's where you can find me.
Back
LinkedIn.com. That's my address. Send letters. Um, so yeah, and I like it now. That's like my for real like primary platform. Instagram I still use, but if you look at like my content history, there's a lot more posts on LinkedIn this year than there are in any other platform. And my audience is there.
Yeah.
My audience, people I want to help, people who I could learn from, they're all there and easily accessible, every single one of them. Um, Instagram, I'm returning to, along with TikTok, but my new primary ones are going to be LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram.
LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. I like
Hmm.
that. Pick, telling your clients that you work with, picking, the platform where the customer is, where you can grow. I love that. But then also making the conscious choice to grow on LinkedIn, even though you were sort of like, I'm there, but I'm not really there. So having a program like that, and how did you and listen, I it sounds like the program was phenomenal. How did you enjoy
Phenomenal.
the accelerator? It was dope. Yeah, it seemed
As
like
Future says, it was sensational.
it was
I didn't get that voice right.
all right, but I think
That's the
people got the
old.
reference. People got the
Yeah. All
that's
right.
great. That's awesome. When it seems like, well, not seems like, it is, because we're seeing it almost every week. Uh Brand new creator tools that are on all the platforms, right? It's all about, it's not just we want to, well, it is sort of like we just want to pay the creators, right? There's this aspect of, pay the creator, right? They're creating the content, it's on the platform. But I think on the flip side, I think these companies are also like, we got to give them something to help them to create. With that, what are your thoughts on what needs to happen on some of your favorite platforms like LinkedIn? We got the audio, the live, you know,
Hmm.
what needs to happen next in terms of this movement?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like every platform has some room to grow, a lot of room to grow, from policies to features. One thing that I think is important for everyone to know is that these social media platforms, they're all different businesses, and each business wants to be the top dog. They want to be like
Yes.
they need to make money, they need to grow. One thing I learned from working in software, a SaaS company, is just how important the number of daily active users are. So when I hear about all these different creator programs and different platforms have, I'm like, one, it's exciting because it does help creators, but it also helps the platform because it encourages people to create content on that platform that will allow other people, like gives people something to consume daily, come back to a point where like being on LinkedIn is a habit. There's people I know who they're just like, yeah, I just be on LinkedIn every day, just scrolling. You didn't hear that before, but that happens because there's a lot of people creating on that platform. So when they invest in creators, invest in tools, they're also investing in themselves. It's ethical unless you're like Triller, who apparently not paying people, paying creators and stuff like
Why?
that.
How
But
does that happen? Okay,
I don't even
yeah.
know. I know the LinkedIn check's cleared. Like, we're good. Yeah, so it is great. And every platform they have different strong points, strong suits, things they do well. So I forgot what your original question was.
No, it's so good. We're gonna get back in. We got some more to dig into that. But
Okay.
you so the question was these platforms. Listen, like these platforms. So
These platforms.
YouTube, LinkedIn, we got Instagram, Facebook, the platforms are out there and are looking to not only just pay the creator, but they are giving features and tools for the creation. And the question is,
Hmm.
where, in terms of the platforms you use, what are the areas of growth? You said
Uh,
something so powerful. you skipped over it, but we're gonna go right into it because you said there's so much growth in terms of policy and in terms of the features, right? In the tools. Now, here's the thing that's going to literally change the game. I said this on the live. I cut up the clip. I never posted it. You know how it is. Is the clip
Yup.
gonna work? It's not gonna work. I'll probably post it later. But I believe that one of the positions or someone that or skill set or whatever you want to call it that will also change the game is having someone who understands policy from that creator's perspective, because the
Mm,
thing about advocating for what you want is inside these little fine prints of these of these things, right? Having someone that knows how the things work, not just the outward facing, like, oh, now I can have this feature here. All of it's within this is a system, folks. Like, this is a whole it's a whole thing behind what we
mhm,
see and what we're participating in. And so inside these companies, I don't think it's lost on people. I'm not going to say that. I don't think it's lost on people, but I think if you think about departments, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, they got legal, they got policy. Why? You know what I'm saying? Because they got to be able to make the business work. And how powerful would that be if there were creative teams and in brands, that would bring on folks. Oh, you over there? Okay, come on over, because we need somebody that can just break down what's happening and then how we can go about strategy and what we need to advocate for when it comes to these platforms.
mhm. That's needed. That's needed because, like, it's funny, right? Because, like, something like a policy around that's like I don't know what they're called, but just like let's say like a policy that's preventing hateful speech or something like
Hmm.
that. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But the actual results of these like automated systems that enforce these policies is a lot of black creators getting kicked off the platform. When you
Right.
look at what they posted that got them kicked off, it's like I got a friend who posted a video. It was just a clip of NBA players dancing on the sideline. He
Right.
got kicked off. A video of someone just talking. They put like sensitive warnings over videos that are just like some basic just stuff. Like there's a lot more advocacy needed. I don't think there's a single platform that's like quote unquote like you're safe from or anything like
Right.
that. It's so easy to get kicked off. So easy for not well, okay, so shadow banning is a thing. Not everyone gets shadow banned. It's just like
Mhm.
the systems change, but
That's
still,
right.
people. There are a lot of platforms who do get shadow banned, and it's like that's all based on these policies that were created and stuff like that. So, no, a lot of work still. A lot of work is needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, um, even with as we're sort of looking at future trends and things, I think what did I see you? Because we were just talking behind the scenes about how we're like in three different groups. But there was something I saw, and you might have done a LinkedIn audio event or something
With
about.
afros and audio.
No, it was something you did about why you need to be on TikTok. Didn't you say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did do that. I did an audio event that turned into me doing a few workshops, a couple podcast appearances. I created an ebook. Yeah. Yeah, I did a room called 24 months to get on TikTok. It's
Yes.
inspired by my guy Gary V, who had this video. He was just talking about the urgency, and it's like, okay, no, this is like more people need to hear about this. So, um, for me, though, my intention of it was not even about getting on TikTok, but more so letting people know that social media is evolving and changing. And like
Come
these
on.
places where organic growth happens, TikTok and LinkedIn are two of the places where organic growth still occurs, like today. Like, for example, Instagram, to grow on Instagram is a lot harder to do it now than it was like a few years ago. That organic growth like
Yes.
actually happened. Now you really got to pay to just play and all that stuff. But TikTok organic growth is here, but it won't be like that forever. It'll go
Mm,
really quickly. There's already creators who are experiencing slower growth this year than they did previously. Um, but more than that, it was kind of this like I didn't mention this as much because it was just like focus slowly and get on TikTok. It's really important to understand how to use TikTok as a creator because TikTok
okay.
has disrupted so many different platforms.
Right.
Every single platform now is invested in video. Facebook
Yes,
out here, you know how Facebook does out here stealing stuff with using Instagram for that. YouTube develop YouTube Shorts.
that's
LinkedIn's getting
right.
into short form video. Snapchat has always been Snapchat. So, but I think even with them, I've seen some TikTok inspired features on that platform. Pinterest, Reddit, everyone has a TikTok style feature now. TikTok has disrupted everything. So if you understand short form video, you can make it on whatever platform you love to be on.
That's good. Short form video, and do you equate that to be like 30 to 90 seconds? What's the
Mm.
definition of short form?
Um, when I think of short form, I get that's a good question actually because it means something different for each thing. So, like on
Yeah.
YouTube, not using YouTube Shorts, short form could be like 3 minutes. On
Oh,
LinkedIn, when they wanted us to create videos that were under 3 minutes long, that's what they consider short. But
oh,
really, like with TikTok, I'll say under 60 seconds is always a good place to be. If you can
okay.
create a really solid content in like 15 to 30 seconds, that's perfect. That's something
Mhm.
I'm working on now is just developing more 15 to 30-second videos myself. But yeah, if you could get it under 60 seconds, anywhere from 15 to 45 seconds is a really nice sweet spot. You could give people exactly what they need. And the reason for it is not just about like what's popular or trendy, but short content is easy to consume. There's a
Mm,
lot that just we as consumers do. We're all over the place. There's so much different content that exists out here. So it's like don't even try to compete with your hour-long video. Go ahead and put the hour-long video out, do the long
but
form
then
podcast,
chop it.
chop it up, create new content that supports that longer thing. Invite people to be a part of your ecosystem with the short form. They'll stay
Mhm.
because of short form, and they'll start to check out the long form too. They'll be there. There's some platforms now, like I discovered because of short form content. Um, what's his name? He's a battle rapper. I just started watching his videos and his interviews. I didn't even know he existed, but um interviewing everybody from like Joe Budden to Nisa Samaro, all these different
Mm.
creators. But found his clips on YouTube. I was just investing. I was like, yo, I need more, I need more, I need more. Then I found the full project. And then I discovered had like 500,000 subscribers and stuff like that. Something I
Oh,
never
wow.
knew of. So it's like there's so much
Sweet.
content here. When people say there's like too many podcasts, too much this or that, it's like, okay, whatever. But really, it's just a matter of finding your audience. So when it comes to
Yeah.
creating content, help people find you.
Help people find you. And I think you're absolutely right. Something I want to lean more into, and probably I just need to probably get just a bit more assistance with, which is
Mm,
taking that short form content, those 15 to 30-second clips and
mhm,
things, and be able to, cut them up, right? And I think that gets for me, because I'm always going to look at it from the structure perspective, just in terms of, I always gotta have a structure to things, because then I think, what could I cut up that could be so that someone could easily follow what I'm saying, like,
mhm.
and that type of thing. But I like what you said, on that, different platforms, it's gonna be different. So LI, I like how I turned into the person.
I see what you did there. Li, I was like, Li, what's that? What's that? Is that a new one?
No, because okay, let's get into naming conventions. I'm big on, like, when you are
Yo.
like, I will say, so I started this process a long time ago, where I save in my Dropbox folder. I'll create something, I'll have the month, and then I'll have the week. Week 1, week 2, week 3. And then I'll have I made you stop drinking you said, "Girl." And
You put
put
me onto something.
I'll put something LI, and then I'll put what the title is, so that when I go to post it, I know it's for LinkedIn. And so, so that's how I did. So I'm like, so when I said LI, I'm just thinking about my naming convention. LI, you're like, who's that? Who we talking about? Yeah. So for LinkedIn, there's a different what do you call short form means different. 2 minutes. Instagram, they're gonna have the reels of 15 to 30 and the 90. So TikTok is going to be the same thing. So okay, so here's what as we close out, I do want to know, and I know we kind of sort of went, going back into the workflow thing. I do want to talk about saving your content. Like how actually do you organize your videos? How do you categorize? How do you label things?
That's a good question. It depends on what it is, to be
Okay.
honest, and
Okay.
that's such a good question too, because I'm working on revising it now.
Mhm.
So for podcast stuff, I have basically two published kind of shows and one that I'm working on now.
Okay.
So one heavy on folders and sectioning things off.
Yep.
So
That's so
starting off
good.
there, but even with that, I need to know, like, if I just randomly come across this file, I need to know what it is. So I make sure the show name is in there.
Okay.
Um,
Good.
I will put an episode number in the podcast. I can say that slowly because I'm moving away from episode numbers, just for
Mhm.
different purposes. I guess I could talk about that too, just because like when it's time to organize things, previously I would use episode numbers because like, okay, this first, then that. But now I'm in this place where I'm focusing on creating and marketing it later, promoting it later, scheduling it later. So that's a new system I'm putting together now.
Nice.
So show name, and then really like either the full name of what it is or a shortened version of it. So like um I had this content series, a mini series called Cheat Codes for Career Growth. So
Mhm.
for that one, that's not a podcast or anything, it's just for social media.
Mhm.
So I basically have cheat codes, and I the cheat codes is just for career growth. So I have cheat codes and then what the cheat code is. So cheat codes, networking, cheat codes, da da da. And then also put if it's a short, long, nano. So I have different naming conventions for the
Nice.
types and things like that. So
That's good. I think that's important. I'm not sure, just in terms of how, and maybe in the comments, definitely put like, how, whether it's workflow related questions, comments, and things, because I am always interested in how people keep track of all the things, like and actually how are you categorizing it, like, and so I really dig how what you're doing, this aspect of create and then you're like promote later, so things are in a people, they're in different stages of
mhm.
your actual content production process, which is really cool. I really like that. I think that's smart. There is a I think what it's so interesting because I used to be very like, I think, and it maybe it took the creativity out of me, but like I'm going to map it all out, the captions of this and the that and da, 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 and then schedule it. And I'm like, victory. But then, but and I just get so excited about it. But I actually, for the past few months, I've stepped away to really sort of go back to pillars and go back to, what sort of makes sense in terms of platform and then strategically understanding what should I be posting and why. And I think what that did was it allowed me to take the pressure off of how many times I was posting, because I feel like I'm now in a season of what's resonating with people and really diving into what people are liking, right? And I think that's, for me, it feels good now. Of course, I think I would love to have probably go back to that eventually, but I was getting, I think, too much in the weeds of the system. And you can, as a sister, as a person who's in it, you can get too much in your process and not be looking outward. So that
Mhm.
was just so that's just, a little bit of my own and then I also it's probably did I start it in August? I think I did because I was heavily into it. This is going to be very interesting. That's why I probably have to, I'm definitely going to have like a ClickUp guest on because I actually do not manage. I stopped managing my content inside of ClickUp
Mm.
because my brain, my issue was, and I may not, and it probably was because the setup wasn't right, or I'm envisioning something in a different way. But my issue was I need a way that I could see what I was creating on a per month and week basis, and I needed a better way to look at it. And so I went back to Airtable because I
Oh,
had
okay.
a whole thing with this is again, this was a kind of a weird thing that happened in 2019. I literally said in September 2019, I remember this so clearly. You're gonna think this is wild. I hope you do anyway. But this was like a little wild. Like I was like, what if somebody takes my content? It came out of the blue. This was like
Mhm.
when you were this was like back this was like before people were like really like locking folks out of accounts. Like, there was like
Mm.
a rise of that, like from like back, from a few years ago to now. Now folks are just like taking folks accounts and like doing all this um banana stuff. But I was like, I
Right.
don't want that to happen. So I figured out how to like take from a Zapier, like from Instagram, and put it in Airtable. So if somehow
Mm.
all of the IG content went away, like I would still have it because I was like, what if somebody takes it? Like,
Mhm.
so I had a thing where I was planning it and then doing all this crazy thing. We'll have to do it behind the scenes where I show you like what the base looks like. But so I returned because I wanted a better way of just linking things, because in Airtable you can do so much linking, and so that's just sort of how I've returned back to it. I could filter and I could just do other things with it. So
Yeah, that's a. I'm glad you learned that because that's a service that a lot of people need. Instagram is the biggest bads out here type of thing, but well, not even really, but Instagram's kind of glitchy if we're being real. Like I'll be watching videos and it stops playing, and I know it's not just me because it happens to
right,
other people
it just
too.
is like looping.
Yeah, and it just stops, and they're like, I still hear it going," but if you're like it's like something like this, and it's like ventriloquist stuff. So, like, do you remember, like, I know this has happened literally every single year where Instagram will just crash. You can't use it at all, and this affects
Yes.
everybody. It's happened so many times.
Oh
Facebook
yeah.
too. Yeah, no, you can't, it's not yeah, it's like people could lock your account out, people could take it and
Oh yeah.
do whatever, but then also you could just no longer have access to something.
It's not
And
good.
yeah, you gotta save your content, find different storage options,
Mhm.
even if
Yeah.
it's just Google Drive,
Something.
something,
Something.
something.
I think that's the moral of the story, folks. Make sure that you have a way that you can not only capture your ideas, have a system for filtering them out, create a pathway to take action on them, and then have a way that you can be able to save your content,
Mhm.
and do it in a way that works for you. Not that you have to do it our way, but grow it the way that it needs to. And then, even if it's not your strong suit, if you join communities or bring somebody on, they can help you with streamlining it so that it makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
overcomplicating it makes it harder for you to
yeah,
grow as a
absolutely.
person, makes it harder
Okay.
for you to get help because you start to feel like, "Oh, I'm the
That's right.
only one who knows this system," but that's a
That's right.
weakness, not a strength, so, yeah.
That's it. That's it. Walter, do you have any closing thoughts on, or before we go to closing thoughts, what are you working on now, and
Mm.
what can the people look forward to?
Um, I'm working on I've always been someone to explore the content, I mean, I guess you heard it, but, I've been working as a podcast producer for a lot of B2B companies, and doing a lot of consulting this year with different size networks, like really huge networks, small networks. Been doing some consulting on the side, and I'm starting to really actually starting to kind of share what I know more. So
Oh, come
creating
on.
some content creator resources, workshops. I've got another one coming up October 3rd. Yeah, I'm now in this space where I'm like, no, I need to like content is such a powerful thing, and I want people to use it because you can grow in your career, you grow your business, your team can grow, but it could also help you to become less dependent on your job, dependent on everything else. Like you create a whole other life for you through content. So I'm working on creating these workshops to help people create content more efficiently, kind of building out systems so that you're not just like chasing nonstop. Because, um, social media is a wonderful place. I always say,
It is.
you either use social media or let it use you. So, yeah, I'm trying to teach people how to use it intentionally.
I like that. It can be overwhelming, but I
Mhm.
think what you're doing is being able to break down the noise, where people can be able
Absolutely.
to really build their own plane, fly it, and really land it the way they want to. So,
Yeah, and find the airport to land it at. You don't have to
come
land it at
on.
the LAX airport. You
You
can land at a
don't.
small airport in the cut, and that could be a better spot for you than someone else because there's opportunity everywhere. It's so crazy. This year really opened my eyes even more. Not even to what opportunity is out there, but how close it all really is. It's like we're all walking around. There's a veil in front of us, and right in front of that veil is opportunity right there. We just have to break
That's
through that
it.
veil. It's like right there within grass. We just don't know it.
That's so good. This is exciting. You listen, don't give us another hour.
Don't
But
do it.
don't don't
We
don't do
barely
it.
scratched the surface. There's so much more to this,
There's so
like
much more, and we will be
yeah.
back. We will be brought back for a part 2. Thank you so much, Walter, just for joining me tonight. It just means a lot. We talked about a lot, and this is good. If you're working on something, you just need something to listen to. Yeah, please do. Just put this on the play button, and you will find some really great information. How to navigate through vulnerability. How to step out on your own and really find your voice through the work that you're doing. You may not even know the complete destination, but we're seeing how Walter was able to navigate that and then just build from there. And be able to build on the podcast, build on the business, consult with clients, helping them find their own path. And then I love seeing just the growth of just your systems, your processes, but also, as we just said, really helping people to navigate this whole entire social media and digital world without overwhelm and with their own pathway. So, thank you so much, Walter. This has been fantastic. This is the Monday edition of Systems Lab Live inside the workflows with Walter Gaynor II of Boss Lux Media. We'll see you guys soon.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.